Aloha, I'm Lyndsey Haraguchi-Nakayama. I have a doctorate of education, a master's of business administration, and a bachelor of science in tropical plants. But most importantly, mother to Lila No'eau and Braden Uvao, and a kalo farmer. Hopefully this helps to dispel any misconceptions that farmers are uneducated. Here, representing over 6 generations of our Hanalei Taro farming family with over a century of perseverance and hard work. We've been in the lo'i from before we could walk. My mom, Carol, tells a story of when I was a toddler. They were harvesting in the lo'i, the taro field, and I was playing on the grass embankment, reaching for a kalo taro leaf. And before she could say, stop, oh, I was head first in knee-deep mud. My legs were sticking up out of the mud like this. They had to pop me out of the mud there. And then, of course, driving tractors solo by 6 years old to help with the family farm chores and with flood evacuation procedures. Now, at 6 years old, if you drive a tractor, you need to be a certain weight because tractors, right, with rototillers, blades underneath, as a safety precaution, there's a weight sensor underneath the tractor seat. Well, at 6 years old, I wasn't heavy enough to even start the engine. So I would sit at the edge of the tractor chair, and my father, Rodney, put a concrete block on the back seat, on the back of the seat there. So I could then start the engine. If I stood up without my weight, it would cut the engine, so it was still okay. Well, my tiny little legs were too short. I couldn't reach the gas pedal. So a spare 2x4 block wired to the gas pedal, and there I went. So helping out with the chores on the farm, and then, of course, babysitting my younger brother, Whit. So he then became my concrete block. My parents wedged in between my back, the high back of the tractor chair. His legs came out like this. And great multitasking experience, right, as a 6-year-old. I could help on the farm, do my farm chores, babysit my brother, and the hum of the tractor would actually kind of rock my brother to sleep. So multitasking at a very young age. Well, helping with flood evacuation procedures, on average, it floods about 5 times a year, right? Kalo, taro, it needs a lot of water. Unfortunately, there are many times we get too much water. So when that happens, we have about 30 minutes or less to evacuate. People first are always the priority, then the huli, the seedlings, so that we have huli seedlings to replant into the next lo'i fields. And then lastly, tractors and vehicles are the last of our evacuation procedures. So at 6, I would jump on a tractor, my dad would jump on the other. 2 by 2, we drive the tractors up into Hanalei Valley, park it on the side of the mountain, run back to the farm, jump on the next set of tractors until all the equipment was evacuated. During one of the flood evacuation procedures, this was when I was in middle school. By the way, I haven't grown since then, so 5'3", this is the measuring stick here. We got back to the farm garage and floodwater was hip high. Rushing through the farm garage, brown floodwater was churning, and it was pushing picnic tables, tools out. So running in waist-deep water, I tried to save whatever tools I can. When I was trying to gather the tools, what I didn't see churning in the flood water behind me was an aluminum ladder. It hit me behind my knees, knocked me right off my feet. At that point, I'm reaching for whatever I can grab. Grass, trees, a shrub, before the floodwater turns into rapids, then it goes out to Hanalei River and out into the ocean. My father was less than 5 feet away. He jumped into the floodwater, ran to save me. He grabbed me by the back of my shirt like a mother cat grabs a kitten, and dragged me to safety at our farmhouse. Now keep that in mind when we talk about another flood evacuation procedure. I know there's so many floods in Hanalei. So I was about early high school, and we got to the point of evacuating tractors and vehicles. My father was on a tractor in front of me. I was in Grandma's car, and we're driving more than halfway up Hanalei Valley. It is pouring rain. The rain is coming sideways, and the brown flash flood water is rising, and we're trying to beat it. Now, as we're heading up Hanalei Valley, before we could even glance at the side, the flash flood water jumped over the road. It hit Grandma's car door with such force that I couldn't push it open. I couldn't roll down the window either. And as I grabbed the steering wheel, I can move the steering wheel, but the tires were no longer touching the ground. So I tried to hit the gas pedal. The tires aren't gripping anything. And as this is happening, I'm being pushed backwards in Grandma's car. Now, I look up and my dad realizes I'm not right behind him. And we lock eyes for a moment, and I think, is he gonna jump in the floodwater to try to rescue me and risk his life? The chain of the tractor that would be able to hook onto the car from the tractor and be able to pull me out was stuck back at the farm garage. So even if he jumped in, he can't stop the entire vehicle that I'm trapped in. How am I also gonna break out through the glass window? Our eyes locked for that moment. Thoughts are racing through our heads. And then he looked at me with determination and he said, "Gun it." At that moment, I got pushed back far enough where the back tires of Grandma's car hit up on a grass embankment. So when I floored the gas pedal, it was just enough to propel me through the floodwater to safety. Now, my mother, Carol, is a teacher, and she's actually the reason why we started our nonprofit museum, because as farmers, we don't think anybody wants to listen to our story. But from an educator's viewpoint, she realized that nowhere else here in Hawaii, our children, keiki, kupuna elders, are able to learn about the agricultural history. So they formed a 501c3 nonprofit, Ho'opulapula Haraguchi Rice Mill Museum. It is the last and only historic rice mill museum left in the entire state of Hawaii, listed on the National Historic Register. Ho'opulapula is the mission of the nonprofit, which means to plant the seedlings of. So whether it was seeds of kalo, taro, or rice, and during World War II, vegetables. During World War II, my grandfather, William, he's 103 years young. When he and his brothers went to enlist in the United States military, they asked him, "What is your occupation?" And being a shy farmer, he said, "I'm just a farmer." And they said, "No, you're not just a farmer. But instead of just growing taro and rice, can you grow vegetables? Help provide food not only for Kauai, Oahu, but the Hawaiian Islands, because during the war, ships of food were not readily coming into the islands." So Grandpa still takes that to heart. There's still sections, areas of our family farm that he continues to garden a variety of vegetables even today. Thank you. My father comes from generations of a farming family and even went to school on Oahu in architecture, and that really helped with rebuilding our museum after each hurricane architecturally to spec. But growing up, I didn't want to depend just on my farming upbringing. So I ended up doing a Bachelor of Science in Tropical Horticulture, tropical plants. The 4-year undergraduate scholarship that I received didn't allow me to double major with business, and there was no agribusiness program at the time. So I ended up doing a master's in business administration, because for our family farm to be sustainable, We have to survive, and our way of life is in danger. And then I ended up doing a doctorate of education for our nonprofit education programs. So it's kind of like a hodgepodge of degrees, but it works for our farm and for our nonprofit. And I think that's why I end up getting asked to serve on a lot of school boards and end up volunteering on Kauai Taragor's Association board as well. Now, there are so many challenges of farmers, many of which we cannot control. Weather, for one, all the flash floods. Of course, there's also invasive species, trespassers, agricultural theft as well. And then, of course, what nobody saw coming was the pandemic. And during that time, we ended up helping Kauai and Oahu food banks, and then sending poi to Maui after the wildfires, and then trying to figure out, okay, how can we help? And one of our customers that would come to every Saturday farmers market was the Naea Ohana, and they actually had to relocate to Washington and Texas. And she reached out to us on social media, then we started emailing, and then we started having conversations over the phone. And when Linda, Naea, and I started talking from one mother's plea to another, she asked me, is there any way, can you guys please figure out how to ship farm fresh poi to us on the mainland? She said her son, Brennan, who's autistic and has digestive issues, is one of the few things that he could eat at every meal without an allergic reaction. So it really compelled us as a farming family. So we put our heads together, and she's actually the reason why we're shipping farm fresh poi, kulolo, cooked taro, etc. And then also being able to transition from nonprofit education programs in person, educating schools across the state of Hawaii on the farm in person. During the pandemic, we had to figure out how to teach online and doing clips, educational clips on social media. And if anybody ever tried to carry a phone in knee-deep mud, the chances you're gonna drop it are quite high. So every day, Chef Brad, my husband, and I teach our keiki, our children, about the importance of putting the community first. So our children help at farmers markets and with us daily on the farm, and they're able to do all the things that we did growing up, but of course with safety first in mind. Our Hanalei Taro farming family motto is perseverance, never giving up. And our backs are sore, but our hearts are full. So I want to recognize there's over 3 generations of the 6 generations of our farming family that are here tonight of the Hanalei Taro Ohana. We want to recognize them, and thank you everybody for coming out to support. Mahalo, thank you for supporting farmers. Aloha.